Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sunday Jamz with Joe, Shak and Sam, where we exchange the songs that we've listened to the most in the week, and then we chat about them. So let's jam.
My song this week is Intro / Just Keep Swimming by 2016 breakout trap hip hop sensation Lil Yachty. He seems to be pretty polarizing within the hip hop community. A lot of people like him, a lot of people don't. A lot of people just see him as a bit of a joke because of his just goofy kind of weird style and persona, just his unique sound. I don't want to go. I'll go into it a bit later.
So Joe said Lil Yachty was a polarizing figure because of his sound. And my first experience with Lil Yachty was when Dan, our resident trap scout, sent me Minnesota from this same mixtape. And I really did not like it. I thought it was straight up annoying. Like, I found Lil Yachty to be really irritating in that song, and I didn't think much of the features either. However, this track, thankfully, I was pleasantly surprised by, and I really enjoyed it. I like how distinct and well realized the two personalities in this track are, in terms of the way that they're characterized through flow and their tone of delivery. So in this track we got Little Boat, which stands for best of all time, in case you didn't know, who is the more aggressive personality of the two. And he's got some good bars in this track. I laughed at the "look at me now, all of my classmates like wow, my teacher's like damn." I don't know, it just brought a smile to my face. And then there's "came up overnight from one song, one night get her out of the thong." It was just kind of dumb and funny. And throughout this track there is just this vibe of having fun and just kind of joyous too. But my favourite part of the track was the Lil Yachty section. And I felt like... I felt like there was a kind of Kanye West influence here, with the way that he works this vocal delivery and the use of the vocal melodies.
Yeah, I put that there was a definite 808s and Heartbreak influence, but I think just to extend that, there's a 808s and Heartbreak influence in basically most of modern trap, especially the ones that are trying to be more melodic. The way they engineer their auto tune and that kind of thing, very much Future does it as well. It's very much the blueprint was set by the album 808s, and Kanye West at that period of time, I think.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I enjoyed 808s, so that being present here is definitely a positive. And I guess another comparison that you could draw in terms of Kanye West is Lost in the World from My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy.
Yeah, because My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy it was kind of like an amalgamation of everything he'd done before, and he worked in the kind of 808 style melodic auto tune thing from that into parts of MBDTF as well. So yeah, definitely. And Lost in the World obviously is pretty much all, not all, but like there's a lot of it is that kind of thing.
Yeah, and as I was saying, the song has a kind of fun and joyous vibe to it. I feel like this part in particular really encapsulates it. This persona of Lil Yachty encapsulates it better. I think in the track as well, the persona of the uncle, I think it is, even says that he's slightly nicer. And it was a surprise turn and easily my favourite part of the track. But in conclusion, I was really surprised by how much fun I really had listening to this. I'm definitely going to be giving the actual mixtape a go, but Minnesota is still really annoying to me anyway.
I like Minnesota. I think it's again, I just think it's fun.
I like it as well, but I think compared to a lot of the highlights on the album, I wouldn't. I would call it a highlight, but like one of the dimmer highlights.
Yeah,
It's not as good as "Wanna Be Us" and "One Night" and shit like that.
fairs. Yeah, I really like the way the sounds he uses are very deliberately puerile. You know, like the keyboard. You know, it's very primary. It sounds very like directly from a kind of nursery rhyme or
Yeah, it's got
music
that
box.
vibe.
Yeah, like a music box, a wind-up music box, those kind of things. You know, there's a definite aesthetic of innocence going on in the production and the beats. Yeah, and I think the first character, Little Boat, makes a nice contrast to that kind of light, childlike beat. But he's so what I really love about this track, I do think it's a great track, and what I really love about this track is how he's so in control and so conscious of all the contrasts that he makes and of the two characters. And then when you get to the second character, Lil Yachty, I don't know,
Yachty!
I
It's a
can't say
yacht,
it.
man.
I know how to say yacht, but yacht.
Just add a Y.
Yachty?
after.
But I don't pronounce the T when I say yacht. But when someone says yachty, I feel like I need to pronounce the T now because it's
Yachty.
I feel too conscious of the T when there's a Y after it, so I can't help myself.
Right.
Anyway, when we get to the second character, Little Yachty,
Party.
yeah, exactly. When we get to him, I think the beat gets even nicer and even more pure and like virginal. There and he really engineers this kind of auto tune to create this warm, soaring bank of just calming noise. It's amazing for something as often jarring to a lot of people as auto tune. It usually kind of grinds on people, but the way he uses auto tune here, it feels very relaxing and it feels very like it melts into the background. Where usually auto tune is kind of like unmissable in a sense.
I think that disdain for autotune stems from the use of it during the kind of bling era of hip hop, where you had people like T-Pain or something who would literally just slap it on, and it doesn't seem to really add much to their tracks so much as it is to hide their lack of ability to stay in tune or in key.
2 Chainz and shit.
Yeah.
Well, I think when auto tune was first coming round, and people like T-Pain, like many things, it wasn't really an art form when it was first created. It was created for a specific function, and a specific purpose, and it didn't really become or evolve into an art form with variety until years down the line when people started experimenting with it and people started playing with it. So it's kind of natural that when you go back to the kind of genesis of autotune becoming really big, especially within the urban hip hop scene, it was a lot more basic and a lot less interesting and probably a bit more grating as well. But it has evolved now, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and it's really interesting when you trace back the genesis of the sound to the whole 808s thing. It's how it's grown in all the different ways that it's used. I feel auto-tune to some people is still just kind of flippantly discarded as just like, why don't you just sing, man? And it's just like you kind of miss the art of how it can be used when you kind of think of it as like oh man, well, why don't you just sing instead? It's a bit like when a lot of electronic music, and EDM, those kind of things started getting big, and people are like, well, why don't you just play instruments or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like you're missing the point. Like you're I guess you're just being traditionalist, and it's like, and it's the same. I feel the same way about a lot of old hip hop people and how they feel about the kind of modern trap music. Is like, oh, but they're not even lyrical. They're not even having sick raps. And it's like, well, yeah, they're not trying to be. So why are you judging them on that metric?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think it the way he uses it here, it adds a really charming kind of slight distortion to the way he sings, which again powers this kind of contrast heavy song that he's put together. I think mostly what I want to say about this song is how he's created so many amazing juxtapositions and so consciously and like pulled them all off. He has the very like literary, very overt juxtaposition of the characters, obviously Little Boat and Lil Yachty, and then the juxtaposition of Little Boat with the very music box-esque beat. Then you have the juxtaposition of Lil Yachty's warming vocals with the sharpness of the auto-tune distortion. And then you have the juxtaposition also of the genre, the context that he operates in trap and his approach to it, which is very easygoing, very light-hearted in itself is a juxtaposition. So I know, say what you want about Lil Yachty, he's not throwaway in trap. He definitely is something special, and I do love this track, and I am looking forward to listening to the mixtape because I've only listened to about 3 or 4 songs off it so far.
Glad you both liked it. I feel like you two have basically covered everything. This always happens. It's like you two say a bunch, and I'm like, yep. For some reason, on the Spotify version of this, there isn't the Finding Nemo sample that there is, or what there should be.
Okay.
It does have when Dory's like just keep swimming in Finding Nemo. That is usually on the beginning of the track.
Oh right, okay. It's just like an intro. Was it like a repeating sample?
It's not a repeat. It's kind of just like an intro. You can hear Marvin as well.
I guess because Spotify's monetized copyright.
Maybe, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe it's like a radio edit or something. I don't know, but
there's like a song of the Weekends, and like the one of the version on YouTube has like a Leah intro, and then that's just cut on the Spotify. Probably again, money. Issue.
I hate radio edits and shit like that.
I mean, I guess if it's just a little thing at the beginning, it doesn't really make much of it.
No, it doesn't. Nah.
Yeah.
But I did think that when I saw it was Just Keep Swimming. And I was wondering, like, where's the Nemo reference? And then I saw there's an intro.
It is usually right at the beginning. You can hear it on YouTube or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, like, that immediately puts you in that childlike vibe anyway, when you hear Finding Nemo right at the beginning.
Mm.
And then that like catchy ass beat comes in with that nursery rhyme synth that Shak was on about, and then like the voice he does for Darnell Boat, the uncle, he sounds almost like Tyler the Creator. He's with that over the top raspy voice. Darnell Boat here. Yeah. I just like it's just kind of funny.
Yeah,
just like the introduction of the characters and just the premise and the two sides like greeting each other and shit. I don't know. I think
Darnell Boat helps to establish a kind of story time vibe as well, from the outset, furthering that childish vibe.
It's like he's being interviewed when he's like, "Do I sit down here?" Yeah, I don't know. Like, I like how in the second part when it's Yachty, how along with the auto-tune, like how Shakeel said, it kind of blends into the instrumental. The instrumental sounds really watery and like it's like muffled. It sounds like it's like submerged in water.
Yeah,
and like you're hearing it from like the other side of like a barrier or something. Like
I feel muffled. Like the hi-hats aren't as pronounced in this track as they are in other trap songs. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe not. Like I feel like the bass helps to hide that away almost. Not hide it away, but add to that muffled. Because there's loads of bass, even when it's being all dreamy and and gentle and friendly in the second half. I'm not sure which half I prefer, but I love them both.
Yeah, I'd say I probably prefer the Yachty half as well, like Sam, just because it's like I don't know. I just really like how people can create these soundscapes from auto-tune. Like I find it really fascinating, just because it's kind of this new thing or it's this kind of fresh thing,
Yeah, like it's definitely when I first went into this song, that it definitely wasn't what I expected from like the introduction to a trap mixtape. So that was a nice surprise. Although the boat verse is sick.
Yeah, like, it's good.
I haven't been this captivated by modern hip hop, like I said earlier, since Kendrick.
Yeah.
I don't know why Yachty is so captivating. He just feels like a bit of a breath of fresh air in what was a bit of like a saturated genre.
Yeah, I mean, I think it still is saturated, and like
Yeah.
you know, it's in the end of the day, it's like the biggest genre in the underground. You know, it's not really mainstream, but within the kind of underground music, it is like at the absolute top. You know, because obviously it's not Drake, except
Yeah.
Drake. I mean, Drake has done like the Future collaboration and stuff, but really shit like Lil Yachty is still underground music, but it's like still getting hundreds of millions of views and tens of millions of views and stuff
Yeah.
like that on YouTube and stuff. It's
I feel like the fact the fact that it's as polarizing as it is does contribute to that fame.
yeah, for sure.
And like he even says himself, old heads hating on Boat because I'm young as fuck and I'm rich as hell.
Yeah,
It's amazing. He's just
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
fuck off.
it's the same with all the kind of new trap guys. They're basically half of their fame comes from all these like bitter old hip hop fans who just hate trap and hate where it's going, and they just click on the video to dislike and complain. And that's where like half their fame is coming from. is from
Speaking
these
of
people.
which, whichever one of you haters has gone and disliked all of our videos,
Fucking do one.
I want to say
Cash
thank
me
you.
outside, how about that?
Yeah, there you go.
You just contribute into that sweet YouTube money.
Green.
You're a complex.
It's true.
My song was by a indie rock band called TV on the Radio. The song's called Happy Idiot. It's off I think it's their most recent album.
Yeah, it is.
And usually 99% of the songs that I've picked in Sunday Jamz are from artists or albums that I've listened to before, or like they've come out of part of just my general journey of listening to lots of music. But this song I just randomly heard, Shazammed it. It went in my Shazam playlist. I listened to it again. I haven't listened to anything else from this band yet. I've just listened to this song, so it's very much a kind of it's very much a random song. I don't really have much to say about it because I really only know it for how I enjoy it on the surface, and not for like the context of the genre or the band or whatever. But yeah,
Immediately, the rapid drumming with like that bare bones. It's got like that really relentless hi-hat tapping, and then it's got like the bare bones snare and kick drum back and forth. That immediately reminded me of a lot of new indie stuff and old indie stuff, like from like the Editors to like Blur.
Yeah, it's a
and shit like that.
quintessential indie sound.
Yeah, it is. Like, and the vocals remind me of a lot of like I wasn't huge on the vocals. To me, they seem kind of like ordinary and reminiscent of singers like Calvin Harris and Damon Albarn and the guy from Hard-Fi, if you remember Hard-Fi.
I don't know.
They did Living for the Weekend and songs like that.
The main vocalist I put down as a reminder was Josh Homme.
Really?
I didn't get that.
No.
Yeah, I had Josh Homme vibes.
I got Damon Albarn vibes, and I got track 2 vibes for this whole song.
I didn't get Damon Albarn. I didn't get either of those actually, because Damon Albarn, it feels too like he can't
Too
sing,
English.
and it's obvious that he can't sing. And B, yeah, he does like he's really English about the way he delivers.
But
and he's like out of tune constantly. And song 2 is like really aggressive as well. It's like Smells Like Teen Spirit basically.
But I thought
British
that
version.
like if track 2 was recorded and released amidst the fashions of today's music, this is what it would sound like.
I guess I can kind of understand what
Because
you
it's
mean
got that rhythm guitar going all the way through it. It's got that really simple boom cat boom boom cat boom like that reminds me of track 2. Like that was like the thoughts that I had throughout like this whole song basically. Like I thought it was catchy, and like the chorus was like pretty memorable, but I wasn't huge on it. Like it doesn't evoke much in me beyond like a bit of a head bob. Like it's not something I'd return to, but like that doesn't mean I didn't like it. I enjoy it But I definitely got major track 2 vibes and indie vibes.
It's an interesting comparison, the whole song 2 thing, just because like I feel like I kind of get what you mean with the drums, but I always think because song 2, I always think song 2 is like borderline Smells Like Teen Spirit ripoff. So I can't think of song 2 as being imitated by something because I just think of it as an imitation in itself. So it's hard for me to picture something sounding like song 2 without it sounding like Smells Like Teen Spirit. And obviously this doesn't really sound like Smells Like
No,
Teen
yeah,
Spirit.
like it's not as like riff driven as those songs.
Yeah.
But like I definitely got like very, very similar vibes. Despite it not being as like heavy on the surface.
Fair enough.
But I definitely got Damon Albarn vibes from the vocals.
I still don't hear it. I don't hear it myself. Again, he's too like he can actually sing, and Damon Albarn cannot sing. He just can't.
Just like the tone of his voice, just like they just sound similar to me. Like whether one's a better singer or not, like whatever, but they're just in just how they sing and just how they sound. Like, I'm listening to it literally right now.
You just sound like I feel like Damon Albarn. Like in this guy, like he changes pitch in the chorus and everything.
Oh yeah.
Damon Albarn is basically monotonous. Like he sings like.
But the bit when he's singing, "I'm a happy idiot," that sounds like Damon Albarn to me.
But again, he changes his voice up. That bit does a bit, but again, he's changing it constantly. Whereas Damon Albarn is basically monotonous. I agree that part kind of sounds Damon Albarn-y.
Whenever he's not doing the high pitched bit, like whenever he's at a normal volume and a normal pitch, he sounds. I definitely get those vibes, like all the way through the verses and that. I don't know. I thought people would agree with me instantly because I thought it was like really obvious that he sounded like him.
No, I still don't agree.
That's fair enough. What do you think, viewers? Comment down below.
To kind of echo what Joe was saying, I enjoyed the track, but I too wasn't huge on it. The things I did like about it were that kind of really fast, as we were kind of saying, quintessentially indie drum pattern. And I liked the vocals, actually. I thought they were probably the most memorable thing about it.
Yeah, no, the vocals are definitely the highlight for me.
Yeah, and I thought a number of lyrics here were kind of memorable, especially the pre-chorus, as we had Joe reenacting brilliantly there about when he says, "It's been a long way down since you left me." Yeah, I think catchy and decent are the best kind of buzzwords to describe this, because I didn't particularly find anything about the instrumentation, aside from the drum pattern, which I liked, to be all that memorable or varied throughout the track. And there's not a lot more I can really add, to be honest.
I hate it when things are just decent.
They're probably the hardest thing to describe because you don't have any strong emotive or really intellectual response to the item.
It doesn't bring anything out in you, so it's just like, well, like how I felt about the Lord track last week. It was like, well, that was a song, and now I'll add that to the list of forgotten songs in my brain.
But like as you said last week as well, you're not slating these kind of songs.
No, I'm not.
Like that was,
I just wish there was something more.
Yeah,
it's kind of interesting when, like, that whole idea of them being more, because I might as well just move on to my bit now. I kind of understand what you guys mean in that there's not much special about this song, and like in a sense there's that kind of angle of like, well, there could be a lot more in this song. But then in this other way, it's like, well, I probably listened to this song like 30 times over the past few weeks, and it's like, well, there's not much going on in the song. But I mean, like, you know, I keep coming back to it. So, I mean, what more can I ask for other than re-listens? Is that not the only reason why I basically listen to lots of music, is to find shit that I want to listen to again?
Maybe you're finding something in it that we're not then, because, like, I said, I'm probably not going to be returning to it personally.
Yeah. But, like, you know, it's not like, you know, there's there's not that much. Like it's not like I really love the track. The highlight, like I said before, the highlight of the song is just all the really catchy vocal melodies in there. Like the verse is catchy, the bridge is catchy, and the chorus is catchy. Like everything's just catchy. I like how the instrumental section there's these kind of breaths of like expansive synthy noise that comes in the Since You Left Me bridge, and they pop up at certain times as well, and they just kind of wash over the track nicely and lightly. I said that I picked the song not necessarily because I'm in love with the track, but because it chimes with me in a very basic and straightforward way.
Mm-hmm.
Like it feels very direct. It feels like it's really not fucking around much with what it's trying to achieve. It just wants to be catchy in a really simple song structure. And I think that feeds into the lyrics as well. It has very simple but effective metaphors, like I'm going to bang my head to the wall till I feel like nothing at all. Like it's such a simple line, but I don't know, it's just like it fits with this whole mold of very straightforward song. The drums in the track, I feel like, keep the song very uniform as well. They hold this very direct feeling. They're very simple. Again, it really, you can't get more straightforward to what the drums are doing here. It also makes it danceable as well. Like the kind of drum pattern, it's quite a danceable drum pattern. But yeah, it's not like I have that much to say about it. I think what I appreciate most about it is how straightforward it is, and is how basic it is, which is kind of interesting because generally, there's not really a concordance with me for songs being songs having a lot of substance and songs and me liking those songs. Like a lot, I find myself attracted to loads of really simple, stripped back, verse chorus songs, just because they succeed in being really straightforward, I think. And I think it's just one of those songs where it's like, I like how they've gone out of their way to make everything feel catchy, and that's enough for me to want to come back to it, just because I listened to it the first couple times, it got stuck in my head, and then I kept listening to it again, basically. And that's kind of been like the past couple of weeks with this song. It's like it gets stuck in my head, and then I put it on again, kind of rinse and repeat.
Fair enough.
Apparently their older stuff is more substantial, I guess, or more.
I can picture them being like, they used to be more serious, and like this is their attempt at like a radio friendly song.
I think it's their like. It feels like a kickback song, like a we don't want to do what we're known for kind of song.
Yeah.
Because I know they used to be a bit more experimental, a bit more arty.
Okay.
And this is obviously feels very straightforward, as I said before.
I got the Editors vibes for some reason. I think it's just because it's got that kind of stiff indie sound to it.
Yeah, I don't really know them enough to comment.
And I could not ever imagine Editors doing a song like this. If Editors came out with a song like this, I'd be like so surprised. Because they're like some of the most like straight-faced music.
Right.
Kind of like if Interpol did a song like this.
Yeah.
It'd be like, what is going on?
My song this week is She Said, from the 1966 Beatles album Revolver, which may be their best. I think it's a very easily arguable album to be their best, as are a few others.
It's got them hits.
Yeah, man. Eleanor Rigby features here.
Mm-hmm. I think if someone was like, what is objectively the best album ever, then this is definitely an album that people go to. It's Revolver, and it tops a lot of lists in that vein of like greatest album ever, best album ever. It's not my favorite album ever. It's not even my favorite Beatles album, but it's one of those albums that is always in the conversation for like, is this the best album ever?
And
along
this
with things like Pet Sounds and Dark Side of the Moon. And stuff.
Okay, computer.
Yeah, not really.
So
maybe for our generation, but
So
not really all time.
And this album, Revolver, is where the Beatles really started to fully embrace their kind of psychedelic sound, whereas on the previous album, Rubber Soul, they kind of dabbled in it, but not necessarily embraced it to the extent they do here.
And Help. They dabbled in Help as well.
Help.
Not on
And
the song Help. On the couple of the cuts from the album, it's a bit like the bongos. The bongos in "You're Going to Lose That Girl" on Help is quite like.
What's the track on Help? It's about being in the movies.
Act Naturally.
Act Naturally is such a good song.
Yeah, it's so catchy. That's a Ringo Starr song. The Ringo Starr songs are all super catchy and super fun songs. I love the Ringo songs. Never diss the Ringo. One of my favorite Beatles songs ever is a Ringo song, With a Little Help from My Friends.
That's a big.
Everyone knows that song.
But yeah, to conclude, this is one of my favorite tracks on the album, and as far as I understand it, Joe isn't necessarily well versed in the Beatles past like the well-known hits. Like, I'm sure you've heard a couple of tracks, but you haven't delved into their discography as extensively.
I haven't gone through their discography. I know it's vast.
Yeah. But yeah, I kind of wanted to see what Joe would make of a more psychedelic track. Because I've
listened to this whole album before, though.
Okay.
The Beatles are, for sure, definitely my favourite band. They're definitely at number one. And I know them very well. And I think what many people, including myself, love so much about the Beatles is the facet of them having so many kind of musical faces. They have a lot of like dimensions from album to album, and even more so when you kind of total up their discography. And I think it's really incredible within the confines of pop rock how much they manage to create in terms of variety of sound. And I think this song is probably my favourite face of the Beatles, and that's the bit more acidy, bit more trippy, bit more psychedelic sound that became so prominent in their later
Asian
career.
Inspired.
Yeah, a lot of
Sitar.
Asian, Indian, George Harrison.
Yeah, I was gonna say George Harrison went to India loads, didn't he?
Mhm.
Yeah, well, they all went to India, I think.
Yeah.
But George Harrison definitely, it chimed with him the most. I mean, by the end of George Harrison's career, he was basically just making like Indian folk music with like other Indian people. He wasn't even making like albums anymore. It's not as psychedelic as it gets on the album. Like Love You Too, which is my favorite track on the album, is a lot more very like Asian influenced psychedelia. And this song is somewhat slightly closer to their pop rock roots, but there's also a lot of like serious experimentation here. I think the first thing that really needs to be talked about is in terms of creating the more ethereal, more transcendental vibe, is the kind of lead guitar. Especially when paired with the vocals. You have Lennon's vocals that are already echoing on themselves with the track layering. And then you get the kind of added feedback loop created between the vocals and the imitating fuzzy lead guitar that responds to the vocals with a similar tone, with a similar tune. And there's definitely a circular feeling to the song, which the Harrison-Lennon performance relationship emboldens here. I almost picture a hippie circle, with like bongos and guitars and shit, just with far more like obviously work put into the construction and production. It's not loosey goosey. It's still very still very tight, but it does have that at the basis of it, that hippie circle kind of vibe to me.
Mm-hmm.
Another astounding aspect of this track, and it's kind of legendary. This track is kind of Ringo's drummings. A lot of people call this like one of the best drum performances in like pop music history. I know I think it's the guy from Jimi Hendrix who talks about this as being one of his biggest influences. It's incredibly tight drumming, and it's really varied as well. And the fills he does are really like intoxicating, and I always find myself wanting to hear the next fill that he's gonna do constantly throughout the song. And he even fucks about with some tempo changes. I think the song changes from like 4/4 to 3/4 in certain parts of the songs. And to kind of put the bow on this kind of hyper reality experience is that cryptic, uncomfortable lyrics. Like I know what it's like to be dead. I think that being the most potent line that sticks with me. And seeing as this song is influenced by like LSD and like tripping, it all kind of makes sense, when you kind of wrap it all together in a package. The psychedelia and the strangeness and the uneven time tempos and stuff like that. It definitely feeds from this LSD experience and LSD-esque trip, which the song's trying to, I think, capture. So yeah, I think it's one of my favorite tracks on the album. It'd be in like my top 5 tracks on the album. I already knew it very well before we did this, but it made me think about it more and listen to it harder. So yeah,
Nice.
It kicks off with that really hot psychedelic guitar sound, like Shakeel said, which is like, I feel like if you've heard the Beatles before, you like recognize that sound. So I wasn't like caught off guard by like anything in the song really. It all sounded very familiar. Not that I really remembered the song from my one listen. Like, it's not one of the more memorable ones from the album, in my opinion, because like I'm not like huge on the structure of it. I don't find it that catchy, or like, I don't know, I'm just not huge on the structure of this song compared to songs like I'm Only Sleeping or Here, There and Everywhere and Eleanor Rigby, of course. Those ones with the catchy, like, there's some catchy kind of, not a chorus necessarily, but
yeah, I think this is definitely on the more experimental side of the album.
yeah,
like, it's definitely not going for straightforward pop structure. Like I say, there's tempo changes and all kinds of stuff in there.
Yeah, I feel like that goes with the whole psychedelic vibe as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, it's cyclical. It kind of seems to be like repeating itself almost.
Yeah.
And even the ending, it just fades out. It doesn't actually like end. It just carries on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And like I said before, psychedelic stuff isn't really my bag.
Not your cup of tea.
The hippie vibes aren't really my thing when it comes to music.
It's not your jam.
It's not my jam. I prefer, I don't know, I'm not going to say sadder vibes, although Eleanor Rigby obviously has those melancholy vibes, but like Here, There and Everywhere, that's not a sad song. No. And I much prefer that. That might be my favourite on the album, Here, There and Everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I really like that song. Yeah, I don't know. I do need to listen to the Beatles discography. But if this was the first Beatles song I'd ever heard, like this song wouldn't get me hyped to listen to more personally.
I feel like this is very far from being entry-level Beatles music.
Yeah,
it's not. It's definitely. This is like a deep in the album cut. Like
yeah.
You wouldn't just put this on, like at a party.
You wouldn't release this as a single.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just not huge on it compared to other songs from the album.
It's interesting though that you say that this like might not necessarily be one of the more accessible tracks from the Beatles in general, which I'd agree with. And then you have albums like Sgt. Pepper and Abbey Road, which still have that psychedelic element to them, but came after Revolver. And I think far many people have listened to both of those albums than Revolver.
I don't know.
They're all so well known. It's so hard to gauge.
They're all the Abbey Road and Sgt. Pepper. I don't know. They have. I don't know about that, because they have, the only thing that makes me think more Sgt. Pepper's and Abbey Road is that they have more iconic album covers than Revolver does.
Which is a shame, because the Revolver album cover is sick.
Yeah.
It's still very well known.
But in terms of really well known Beatles tracks, I don't know. I feel like songs like Eleanor Rigby are more well known than anything off Sgt. Pepper's, except maybe With a Little Help from My Friends. But that's the only song. I feel like the fame around Revolver songs, in my head, I don't know, I wasn't there in the 60s, but in my head, the fame around Revolver songs now outshadows the fame around Sgt. Pepper songs.
Right.
So that's how I've always perceived it. It's more like Sgt. Pepper's is more like, even though it's the most, I think it's their best-selling one, and it is the most, I guess, iconic one. It's my personal favorite one as well. But in terms of single tracks, I feel like if I went to a regular person, they'd more likely know more songs off Revolver. I don't know. It's hard to
gauge.
Measure. Yeah, it's hard to measure.
Overall, not huge on the track. Like, it doesn't really have a lasting effect on me compared to other tracks from the same album, never mind their discography. So, not that I'm super well versed in it, but from what I have heard, I do need to listen to more, because I definitely like a lot of the stuff I hear.
Mm-hmm.
So, as Joe was saying, when it comes to the final person on this, you kind of feel like a lot of things have been said. But one angle that Shakeel highlighted is that the lyrics themselves are quite cryptic. And while I agree there is an element of trying to encapsulate what it feels like to be on LSD and have that kind of floaty, like psychedelic experience translate into music, that's definitely there. But I feel like you could also interpret this as some kind of marital argument, in that they're equating how the relationship or the things they've heard about one another is making them feel like dead or not even born. Like, we even get this part from Lennon where he says, "Who put all those things in your head?"
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's a fusion in the lyrics between surrealness and their kind of trade at this point. At Revolver's point, they had a trademark lyrical content of obviously talking about love and relationships and shit, which is basically all they did for the first few albums. And this definitely feels like the middle point between, because like later on they just stop talking about it at all, and they just go in all kinds of directions. And this, like you say, it's kind of a fusion between, there's definitely a relationship undertone, but some of the ways in which they depict and describe that relationship are quite surreal, which I think is a cool fusion.
Yeah, totally agree. I haven't got much more to say about the track other than I really liked it. And for anyone who does want to dive into the Beatles, I guess if you're not huge on psychedelia like Joe, Help and Rubber Soul are the best places to start. And then go at your leisure, because everything else you're going to listen to is pretty psychedelic heavy, unless you go earlier, obviously.
That comes with the territories of the 60s.
Yeah, for sure. I think, I don't know, I feel like there's not really a good place to start with the Beatles. What did I start
It's
with?
very daunting.
I'm trying to think.
It can be.
I'm looking at the Beatles discography. What did I start with? I think I started with A Hard Day's Night. And then from A Hard Day's Night,
Is A Hard Day's Night pre-Help?
Yeah.
Okay, A Hard Day's Night is pretty good, actually.
A Hard Day's Night is a good album. It's very like simple, straight. It's like, when you think of the Beatles back in the day with the haircuts and the suits and shit, that's kind of like the seminal album of that period of the Beatles. Because Help is kind of like the bridge transition album before they became, like, between them becoming hippies and then being the kind of lover boys. But when they were full-fledged, poppy lover boy type guys, A Hard Day's Night is kind of like the album. So I thought, when I first started it, I was like, well, I'm not going to start with Please Please Me, because it's like, I don't know, I just had this feeling it wasn't going to be that good, and it turned out to be my least favorite. So I guess I had the right inkling at the beginning.
Yeah.
But I thought, well, let me find the album from this era, from this very early era, that's considered the best. And so I went with Hard Day's Night and kind of worked forward through there, I think, and then I didn't go back to Please Please Me and With the Beatles until a bit later on.
It's With the Beatles, the black and white album cover.
Yeah.
That's my least favourite.
The one that would Meet the Residents.
Yeah,
the Residents.
that
one.
So, like, I went through a big like slog of trying to listen to every Beatles album back to back, and everything pre Hard Day's Night sounded so similar, man. It just felt like one long album.
Yeah, those first two albums are quite similar, I think. There's a couple of bangers between those two albums, though, but overall, they're not very good albums, in my opinion. Hard Day's Night onwards is really
where it kicks off.
Yeah, I'd say. But they're definitely my number one band, and I think everyone should check them out. And a fun trivia: Lil Yachty's favorite Beatles album is Magical Mystery Tour.
Of course it is.
So if you want that Yachty recommendation, then go listen to Magic. It's a great album. It's really good, and you should listen to it anyway. But the fact that Yachty recommended you to listen to it, it gives you even more reason. So,
Lobo!
There you go. It's definitely the hipster choice. A lot of hipsters choose that as their favorite Beatles album. It's a sick album, but I feel like it's very much a hipster decision to choose Magic Mystery Tour. Thank you, everyone, for listening. If you guys listen to the songs What did you think of them? What have you been listening to lately? Have you checked out that fire-ass Yachty mixtape? Let us know. If you want to check out the playlist that contains all of our weekly selections since the first time we ever did this, and also if you want to listen to the tracks that we discussed today, link to everything will be in the description. Subscribe to our channel.
To the channel. Subscribe to the channel.
Subscribe to our channel. Give us a thumbs up. Up, you cunt. You thumbs down all our videos.
We know where you live, bruh.
Give us a thumbs up, not a thumbs down. Find that cunt who thumbs down our videos. Kill him and share this shit on your social media. Thank you for listening.
Bye-bye.
Seriously, kill him.
You're a complex.
Okay.
Fucking Trump.